Now, it probably hasn't escaped your notice that we are quite big on electric cars here at electrifying.com. You could go so far as to say we are excited about electrons, we're big on batteries, keen on kilowatts. You wrote this, didn't you? You wrote that intro.
I like alliteration.
Okay. And we've seen a lot of change, haven't we, over the last couple of years since we really started driving them regularly?
Yeah, I mean, the electric ecosystem, as we know it, has absolutely bloomed, hasn't it? It's gone absolutely massive. And it's all in preparation for that ban on new petrol or diesel cars that's coming in 2030. And the electric world is just getting better.
I sense a butt coming here.
There is a bunch, there is a bunch.
See the title of this video?
What's the but, Nikki?
Ultimately, there are still plenty of niggles and gripes that we have when it comes to owning, driving, leasing, borrowing electric cars. And, well, we're going to chat about them, aren't we?
So here are the top 5 things we still hate about electric cars by the people that love them.
So, why are we talking about things we hate about electric cars when we're all into it? I think we all drive one, etc.
That's a good point.
It's a good point. I think with just like anything in existence, critical, constructively criticizing things can only lead to improvement. So that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this today.
It's true. If we acknowledge the not so good stuff, then hopefully it gets better.
Absolutely.
Shall I start us off with an oldie but a goodie? Let's talk about range.
Range.
Okay. Yeah, but what range? Because I like the new terminology that we talked about the other day. Instead of just range anxiety and about the range, the charge that you get in the battery, it's actually about how good the charging points are going to be. So it's not range anxiety, it's charge anxiety. Yeah, exactly.
However, it is all a bit complicated. Let me be a bit more specific. So the official figures that we all see quoted, and you will see in all the car makers' ads for their cars, we use them ourselves as a standard, the WLTP figures.
WLTP.
Okay, WLTP, does anyone know what it actually stands for?
World Light Harmonised Test Procedure.
Yeah.
What you said.
The World Light Harmonised Test.
Who out of all of us, and we must have driven dozens and dozens and dozens, we've driven every electric car on sale, who has ever achieved the actual claimed range in an electric car? Put your hands up if you have.
I reckon I actually have, because I do local driving.
You would.
Because I don't actually, if you avoid going on a motorway, if you drive at sub 20 miles an hour, which is the speed limit where I live, then actually it's all right.
I was just going to say, generally, if you take the WLTP figure and knock a third off,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what you'll get in the UK, in the temperatures we have. But that's really confusing. When you buy a car in the UK, you read that headline figure, don't you? And you think, I've got 250 miles to do, and this car will do 300, and then you get it home and it does 200, and you go, oh.
Very
Well,
frustrating.
it's quite
bad.
funny, the amount of people I've spoken to, they're like, my car's broken. I bought it because it
it
said
does,
it does
yeah.
250 and it's only doing 180. And it's like, it's not broken. It's
I
the
partly
way you're
blame
driving
the
it.
manufacturers as well, because they don't give you enough data in the car to actually tell you what's happening. So when it's cold outside, I'd love to be able to get in the car and it tells me this is temperature, this is how it's going to affect your driving today.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. But
And
a
it
lot
needs
of
to be
them don't.
simpler.
Yeah.
And I think we
That's
need
a
to
really
have
good
it
point.
communicated more effectively, because there's so many variables that change, like you say, temperature, whether the battery's hot or cold, what the outside temperature is, whether it's raining, it can all affect your range, and it just feels really complicated. And we're a long way in now.
Yeah.
It should be
At this
easier
stage,
to understand.
yeah.
So, partly to answer that is why we have recently launched our Electrifying efficiency rating. So watch out for that. It's on all of our reviews for electric cars only. And we've just gone out and assessed in the real world. It's a bit of a secret algorithm, but we've just taken a look at all the electric cars and we tell you what the overall efficiency is like, not what the manufacturers like to tell you. So that is a good benchmark to how efficient that car's going to be, how close to the range you're going to get. And it also takes into account things like how quickly they can charge as well. Because it's looking at the overall picture. So range, okay, that's my first one that I'm throwing in. Who's got something else to throw in?
Can I just throw in one extra little bit?
Okay.
Like, it's not just range. We were saying about infrastructure anxiety. If I knew that the chargers were all going to work and it was all going to be brilliant, I wouldn't end up driving my car around with 50 miles left of range just in case the charger's broken.
Okay.
So I think charging and public charging should be our next thing.
Okay, and funny enough it is.
Charging infrastructure. generally.
Yeah, just charging
Yeah.
when you're out and about, not
Which
at
is
home.
a pretty big topic.
And
when it
also, I
comes
think
to buying an
cars
electric
should
car.
better communicate with the charging station. So if I get to one of them, I plug in, doesn't work, that should get updated somewhere.
Yes,
straight
instantly.
away.
Yeah.
Straight
Don't
away.
rely on
But I find
crowd-funded
that
thing.
ZapMap is so reliable at telling you all the information you need to know about charging points. Not. Obviously, we do use apps to help us when it comes to charging, but they are not always the most reliable. With the most up-to-date information. But it's quite interesting, actually. We can give you the official number of connectors in the UK. So the official number of connectors there are in the UK at this very moment in time is 48,612. Devices, there are 28,796 at over 18,000 locations. Now, that is a massive jump up from what it was before.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is a massive benefit, but the downside is we've seen more electric car sales.
Yes.
So the queues are still there, and actually they are growing. And I mentioned the word queuing, which we love to do
You are
in the
so
UK.
right.
When Jeannie was in LA, she would have said the line up.
Yay!
Drop that there.
But the question is queuing etiquette, particularly at service stations, because of course when you arrive at a service station, there's a certain number of charging points available. There are lots of cars queuing to get on, and how do you navigate that situation? Who is up next first? And you want to go into the service station as well.
I've got an idea.
Go on, what's your idea? I've got
Maybe
an
when you pull up, you type in, there's a machine that you go, this is how much I've got right now, this is how much I need. And it tells you where to go next.
Oh, that was better than my
Based
idea.
on, if that car's parked there and he's got 10 minutes left, maybe I need just 5%, it'll go, that's your next spot.
What a good idea.
I was
That's
thinking
really
more
clever.
That's
like,
really clever. That's so much smarter
yeah.
than my idea.
You know, at the butchers, and you say,
that was weird. Literally, I was saying,
I was going to
we're the
say,
same person.
exactly the same.
you know how in some restaurants, when you go in and they give you a buzzer for when it's
Yeah.
free,
Also
could you
good.
on the app
Pick up your buzzer.
So you
Yeah,
click-
you
you
click
register
on, you
in.
click on, you register. So when there's a queuing time, you get your slot and you get registered. So it's the app that tells you. So you don't have arguments between people going, I was here before you, waiting. Oh, people having to wait in their cars for ages.
And it makes it quite fraught. You sit there waiting, and because they could be on there for 30, 40 minutes,
And also,
it drives you insane.
you're at a service station. The whole point is you can use the services.
Yeah.
You don't want to be sitting waiting in your car
Yeah.
for half an hour unnecessarily.
The interesting thing for this is, so friends of mine have talked them into getting a Tesla at the end of last year, and they did big long journey up to Scotland in it over Christmas last year. Absolutely fantastic, no problems, until they needed to charge. And there's so many Teslas now being sold. As you said, there were massive queues. They had to wait over an hour just to get on a charger before they
and,
could
and
charge.
what? And charge, and then charge.
And then charge.
charge, which
And
is
then
another-
and then charge.
Ooh,
And
see, I've
then charge.
encountered it a bit, but it's not been that bad.
And the network for me, the supercharging network, is always a thing we talk about Teslas, and the network is being opened up to other drivers. So I think that's going to be a really interesting situation. So yes, I think we've got loads of chargers. Those numbers are impressive. What speed are they? Are there enough in the right places? And are they able to cope as the demand for electric cars grows?
Next, we have price. Price in many ways. You know, you go to a charging station, you don't know what you're paying for what you've just charged. You don't know what rate it is, etc. So there's so much to talk about when it comes to pricing.
Yeah, and the fact that electric cars
They're
still
still expensive.
they still cost
Expensive
more.
as well, yeah.
How can you tell me that if I'm on a budget, spending 30 grand on an electric Super Mini makes more sense than spending 18
Yeah.
on one with a small petrol engine? I know it's more complicated than that, but when I look at it, I go, no.
And I think they're more expensive, obviously, when you're buying it outright. I think it's all about, with electric cars, looking for those deals.
And TCO.
And yes, exactly, the lifetime, the cost of the lifetime of that car, which is very easy for us to work out on paper, but you do have to kind of think about it in the real world. And okay, is an incentive of saving £35 a month enough to switch to going to electric with the inconvenience that
Sometimes
can...
pops
I think
up.
it will be
Can
for
come.
some people, I
Yeah.
think. I think that total cost of ownership, we've got to move away from just looking at the price, haven't we?
Yeah.
So that it's that looking at what you've paid for it, then taking away the money that you've spent running it, using it, fueling it, and then you take away the amount at the end, and you're left then with the total cost of ownership. And on some
resale
electric
value.
cars, it does work out better, but as you say, it can be minimal. But that's going to change.
Yeah.
Because the batteries are the big expensive thing, aren't they?
Yeah. But we also now have like different ways of getting the cars, like leasing, subscription models, and buying it outright, loans, whatever you want to do. But that subscription model is one that is piquing my interest at the moment because it saves you so much money in
But it'd
terms
be
of
like
maintenance.
Your phone. Is that how it works? It's like your phone. You basically just lease it, and when you want to upgrade or change the car,
If they
you can do
literally,
it.
you have, like I've got one at the moment and it's on a month rolling basis. So next month, if I don't need it, I can give the car back. If I see something else that I need, maybe add a new kid or something, I can upgrade.
kid?
Is there something you need to tell
No,
us?
not at all. Not at all. I meant a new car.
Wait.
You and Nikki.
I couldn't work out whether to say kit or kid.
I said a new car.
So you can have it for a month and then literally chop it.
Chop it, get
So if
something
you went
else.
travel, I know you travel quite a bit. If you went
Yeah.
travelling for a month,
Right.
you just wouldn't have a car for them.
I just give it back.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about the
Okay.
cost of batteries, because at the moment it's quite an interesting measure. The cost of battery per kilowatt hour is, they measure it in dollars, so it's $132, which is about 100 quid. But apparently, according to experts, this price needs to come down to $100 per kilowatt hour. And that will basically mean that the car makers have run out of excuses to charge a hefty fee on an electric car.
The early adopter fee.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what, 25% has still got to be knocked off the price.
The interesting thing is both Tesla and VW have said they want to drive the price of batteries per kilowatt hour down to $60,
Well, it has to be.
which would be amazing.
Yeah.
And then electric cars will be a lot cheaper to buy than a
Yeah.
petrol or a diesel, and
Yeah.
suddenly everybody's finances looks better.
Let's go on now to the actual thing that drives me mad is the actual experience. When it's sort of linked to charging really, but it's the whole experience of that. So we've all got stories to tell of charging nightmares, but what really irritates me is signage. Can't find chargers half the time. You pull into service stations. I'm constantly driving around the car
With
park.
big car parks.
Yeah.
Let's have some signage on maybe A roads and the motorways. You know the way we know on the motorway that the next service is coming up in X amount
And
of
it's
miles.
got
A little plug.
a coffee shop and a thing
Yes.
and a BP and a
Let's
Shell.
tell us how many charging stations it's got. Let's tell us what speeds they are, so we can decide whether we're going to go. Let's just have a bit more signage generally. On really long A roads where you're not actually sure. We're not all organised. We don't all have a charging map plugged into the car.
Yeah,
I think just
absolutely.
signage generally would be good.
Particularly, near where I live, they have the charge points in the lampposts, which is amazing.
But are they
But
easily
there is
findable?
no signage.
To say, yeah.
Absolutely
You just have to look
zero.
out for that
So
flashing
the
blue
only
light.
time I see
Blue light,
it
yeah.
is when I'm walking to the park and I'm like, oh, there's the lamppost.
So they have a tiny. They don't actually say on the lamppost.
No.
Why don't you paint the lamppost green?
Yeah.
Do you know the other thing is that anybody can park in the
sure about
bays?
that.
Well, that used to be the case anyway.
Well, that's just stupid.
Stupid.
Yeah,
I did ask.
So anyone can park there. So
Yeah.
the chance of you actually being able to get onto...
Guess who doesn't go anywhere near London?
I asked somebody from the council, so I was filming these when they were first put in quite a few years ago now, and I said, okay, but how's that going to work then if anyone can park in the bay? And he said, oh, well, we just think people will be neighbourly and you'll let your neighbours know that
Do they
you've
not
got
live
an
in
electric
London?
car. They didn't live in London. I know. Or any other big
not
city.
a chance.
So that's an issue. And the other thing for me, and I guess maybe it's Nikki and I feel, I don't know, maybe we all feel this. I have gone into so many corners of car parks to charge. It's dark. It's cold,
Sketchy.
it's wet. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm using the light from my phone. I don't like it. I want some cover. I want to feel safe.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
definitely, and with cameras there as well, just so that, that someone's keeping an
Someone's
eye on you
watching,
just
yeah.
in case.
The things we're talking about there, like a bit of weatherproofing, a bit of lighting, a bit better
Lighting's very
signage.
important.
These are not big, hard things to do, are they?
And also actually accessibility.
Oh yeah.
You know, accessibility, charging can be really tricky for drivers that, need some help with accessibility.
Yes.
If you've got to get a chair out or
Yeah.
you've got to do something with sticks, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Right. What's the fifth one? What's the fifth thing we hate?
I can't believe I'm still saying this.
Yeah.
It's EV nonsense. EV nonsense.
Is Bev rearranged?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, we're here, we're fighting the good fight, we're talking about electric cars, but the amount of tired, old, urban myths that keep getting trotted out every time we talk about electric cars, it's tiring, isn't it?
It is.
And it's all
What's
the same.
the one
stuff.
that you work with?
Zero emission.
No, it's not zero. It's not zero emissions because it all comes from a nuclear coal power fire station that kills puppies.
To be fair, they've got a point. You know, electric cars are only as green as the fuel you put into them.
Completely accept
or if you don't do that, all you're doing is moving it all around, moving the emissions around. So if you want to be really sustainable, you do need to put green energy into your electric
True.
car.
It's the fact that everybody is an expert.
I just think people are becoming more educated slowly, particularly with things like green energy tariffs that are available now. Everyone is more aware that you can actually charge your car from renewable energy. And there is more information out there about how cars are built, where batteries are sourced, where lithium comes from, where the components that are used within an electric car come from. So there is a little bit more information out there.
And I don't think
but-
we've ever said they're perfect, have we?
No.
None of us have ever said that electric cars are perfect, but they're better than doing nothing.
Than having a internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think moving forward, change and growth and evolution only happens when you take some steps.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also remember, the main reason why electric cars were originally created was for city driving, because most of the pollution happens within cities, and that's where people die of, inhalation from all the fumes. So actually, if you are driving an electric car in the countryside, brilliant, but the main original purpose was for driving in the city.
Yeah, you've got to really think about that as well. I'm sure all of us would rather have an electric car driving past our house, past the school where our kids are, past our gardens, than a car that isn't electric. So yes, they are not the silver bullet, and we absolutely respect people's right to say they're not right for me yet, of course. But I do agree there is quite a lot of bullshit out there talked about them.
So come on, you lot, please stop getting your information from Dave at the Facebook University.
Can I drop
But do
one
keep
thing in?
hounding him on Twitter.
Can I drop one random one in?
Go on then.
I'm the random person on this one. So the sounds that the car makes, like in terms of people, other road users not being able to hear your car. Because every time I drive my EV, I see people walk across the road on their phone. They can't hear anything.
But I thought your car should have a sound. It's
Mine
not
doesn't.
silent.
I thought all of them.
It's super quiet.
It's not loud enough, is what you said.
It's not loud enough.
Yeah.
I think
that
it was a
train horn.
when you're reversing, you can hear it. But talking about city again, cities are so loud.
Yeah,
it's
true.
not balanced out.
You'd not hear it.
But
you can't hear a Rolls Royce.
I go through the village.
If they die,
Not many
they
Rolls
die.
Royce.
But even if you're going, so there's a lot of walkers around where we live, and you walk driving along the country lanes, the walkers are there, and coming behind at like maybe 20, 25 miles an hour, they can't hear you.
Darwinism.
And half the time, you said they're on a phone, people have got earphones in, so that's a really good one. That
So
just
what is your
drives me
solution,
mad.
Tommy?
I don't know. We need.
Do you want
Either-
an enhanced fake sound?
Electric ice cream vans that play a sound. There you go.
I would do what Wookie would do, which would be just water squirting out of the cars.
I'm coming through.
Coming through.
You can turn your windscreen washers
Something I
just
did.
so it splats in your face.
So there you have it.
5 things that we hate about electric cars.
And I think they are things that will improve over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at motorway charging, we did a lot of, sort of battling against that, and we have seen improvements.
We have.
Yeah, and on balance,
Slowly.
despite our niggles, I actually think that we believe that switching to electric is probably a good bet for most of us.
That's true. So if you fancy making the switch to an electric car this year, if you haven't already, then we have all the information that you need to make the switch. Don't let our gripes put you off, because overall they are absolutely brilliant and we do love driving them. So head over to electrifying.com for that, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you know when all our videos land.